Hello everyone, this is Mr. Kovacek, and I'm going to read chapter 27 of Cryptid Hunters. Wolf had removed his prosthetic leg and was working on it with a special toolkit he kept in his pack. "Can I help?" Laurel asked. "No, this is a one-person job. I just need to tighten the screws and make some adjustments to the hinges. It's a prototype that Ted made for me. This is the first time it's been in a swamp, and it's a little gumped up. We'll be on relatively dry ground from now on," Laurel said. "I'm glad of that," Wolf said. "There's one thing you can do." He handed her the gizmo. Laurel found the blue, gray, pink, and purple tags at the sky house. They all seemed to be tucked in for the night. She hit the bow cam button. "Marty left us a message." Wolf grabbed the gizmo. On the screen, it was a drawing of Bo and him sitting on a log. Beneath it was a note. "Wolf, Butch has Grace in the gizmo. No sign of Mausolito. I'll wait for you here. Marty." Wolf swore. "I knew something was wrong. If Butch so much as..." He let the rest of the thought go, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. When he opened them, he looked back at the screen and studied Marty's drawing. "It looks like they're sitting on the Molino." Laurel nodded in agreement. "What's it mean?" "I think he's telling us Mausolito is there. And look at it. At this." He pointed at Bo. "He's drawn her with all the tracking tags around her neck." Wolf switched back to the tracking mode and zoomed in on the four colors. They were right on top of one another, moving around the sky house at the exact same pace. "Marty and Mausolito aren't there," Laurel said. "But why did Marty leave the tags at the sky house?" "Butch has a gizmo," Wolf said. "Give me your tag." Laurel took it off. "What are you going to do?" "Take a page out of Marty's book." He hung his and Laurel's tags on a tree branch. Felipe was blabbing on about how the gray parrot had bewitched him. Jaquez was yelling about how Felipe had guard duty, and Jean-Claude was holding his bleeding ear, moaning about how he was the only one alert enough to grab the girl. "All of you shut up," Butch shouted. He picked up the gizmo and checked the tags in the sky house. They were all there. Next he clicked on the bow cam and saw Marty's note and drawing. "Oh, that's just perfect. Wolf knows we have the girl." He checked Wolf and Laurel's tags and was shocked to see how close they were. The only good thing was that the tags weren't moving. He got the map out of his pack and walked over to Felipe and Jaquez. "Change of plans. Our friends are making better time than I thought. I want you two to head out and immediately and wait here." He pointed to a spot on the map. "It's a narrow land bridge over the swamp. They have to cross it to get here. Unless you think it's beyond your capabilities to dispatch a woman and a one-legged man." Felipe and Jaquez assured him that it wasn't. "While you're taking care of them, I'll retrieve the girl. We'll meet here." He pointed to the map again. "A helicopter will pick us up this evening." "What about me?" Jean-Claude asked. Butch looked at him for a long time, then nodded and turned back to Felipe and Jaquez. "After you take care of Wolf and Dr. Lee, come back here and pick up Jean-Claude." He looked at Felipe and shook his head in disgust. "We weren't bewitched by a parrot. We were drugged by a little girl." Grace had gotten much farther than she thought, and she was worried. The whole point of her escape was to get them to follow her. As she collapsed on her hands and knees with her lungs on fire, there were no breaking branches or shouting men. The only thing she heard was her breathing and the jungle creatures awakening in the gray mist of another dawn. "Where are they?" She sat up and saw the parrot had followed her. He was perched in the lower branch of a tree, calmly preening his feathers. "I have no idea where I am," she thought, "and with the gizmo gone, no way to find out." She looked up at the preening parrot. "I don't suppose you know the way to the sky house." The parrot stopped preening and made a gurgling noise. "That's what I thought." Grace stood and brushed the damp leaves from her pants. "If I can find Lake Telly, I can find the sky house." She started forward, but stopped when she discovered that the parrot was not following. Then he started to fly in the opposite direction. She nodded. "Okay, I'll follow you," she said, "but I hope you know where you're going." Marty lay next to Mausolito at the edge of Butch's camp. There wasn't much to it. A couple of crude lintos, both empty. a green tarp near a smoking fire, and a smell that made Marty want to retch. The camp looked as though it had been abandoned. "Where are they?" he whispered. Mausolito stood, strung an arrow, and motioned for Marty to stay where he was. Without making a sound, he walked toward the fire. When he got there, he kicked the green tarp. Someone screamed. The tarp flew, and the man beneath backed up like a crayfish, being pursued by a bobcat. Mausolito followed him with his arrow pointed an inch from his eye. The man began speaking in terrified French, which was a little hard for Marty to follow, but he was able to pick up enough to hear something about Grace and Butch. The man was a wreck. Marty gently put his hand on Mausolito's taut forearm. Mausolito nodded and grimly and relaxed the bow, but kept the arrow strung. Jean-Claude visibly relaxed. "What happened to you?" Marty asked in French. "Gorilla," Jean-Claude answered. "Where's Grace?" "She ran away. Butch has gone after her." "And the others?" "They have gone after the one-legged man and the woman." "Wolf and Laurel?" Jean-Claude nodded. "Why?" Jean-Claude did not answer. Mausolito pulled the arrow back again. "To kill them," Jean-Claude said. Butch McCall had not caught up to Grace. Following her tiny footprints was easy, but he was surprised at how much ground she had covered in the short time she had been gone. His satellite phone rang. He cursed himself for putting it in his pack and considered not answering. But if he turned it off, Blackwood would know it and go into a rage. Noah did not tolerate being out of touch with his people, no matter where they were. "Butch?" "Yeah. How's everything going?" "Good. We'll be landing in a couple hours. The helicopter is waiting for us. How's the weather?" "Good." "How's Grace?" Butch hesitated. "She's fine." "Let me talk to her." Butch winced. "Well, she's... No one, not even Butch McCall, lied to Noah Blackwood. "She slipped away early this morning." "Are you telling me that a little girl escaped 4 grown men?" Blackwood shouted. "We couldn't very well tie her up," Butch defended himself. "That would have blown our rescue story." "Obviously, she didn't believe your story." Butch wanted to point out that it was Blackwood's story, not his. "No, sir, she didn't," he said. "Do you have any idea how important she is to me?" "Yes." "What are you going to do about it?" "I'm on her trail right now," Butch said. "She won't get far." "And our friends?" Blackwood asked. "They won't be a problem. When you find Grace, call me," Blackwood said. "Immediately." Marty explained the situation with the aid of the sketch pad. Mausolito nodded as if he understood and began looking at the ground. He found the footprints of the 2 men in pandemonium that they should follow him. Forget it. Marty was not about to leave Grace in the forest by herself with Butch McCall after her. He pointed at Butch's big boot prints. "I'm going after Grace." Mausolito shook his head. "I have to find Grace," Marty insisted. "I'd just slow you up." He squatted down and drew a quick sketch of the sky house. "We'll wait for you here." Mausolito stared at the crude drawing for several seconds before finally nodding in agreement. They started off in separate directions just as daylight began filtering through the canopy. Butch arrived at the spot where Grace had fallen to her hands and knees to catch her breath. He touched the faint impressions in the soft ground and smiled. She wasn't far, and with the sun up, tracking her would be easy now. He checked the location of Wolf and the boy. The boy was still at the sky house, and Wolf and the woman were still in the same place they had been when he left camp. He shook his head. Something wasn't right. He checked the vidcam. The bird was flying above the canopy. No sign of the people in the picture. "What are you up to, Wolf?" he thought. There was a way to find out, but before taking the path, he unlaced his boots and took off his socks. He always carried several spare socks in his pack. Wet socks kill feet. He wondered how the girl's feet were doing. As his feet air-dried, he took the gizmo out and pushed the video conference icon. Wolf and Laurel had been virtually jogging through the forest since seeing Marty's message. Wolf's stump hurt, but he ignored the pain. The only thing that mattered was reaching Grace and Marty. If Blackwood got his hands on on them, Wolf would never see them again. At first, he didn't hear the gizmo's call above his labored breathing and the heavy pack slapping against his back. But the sound finally filtered through, and he stopped and touched the video conference button. "Butch?" he said. "Long time no see," Butch said. "Caught any great whites lately?" Wolf did not answer. It was obvious Butch had not gotten over the fact that he had failed to bring Blackwood his prize shark, and that was just the beginning of the rivalry. What Butch had really wanted to catch was Rose. Wolf could see by his expression that his hatred had not dimmed over the years. "Where's Grace? This little pocket computer is really something," Butch said. "I've got to hand it to you, and Ted." "Where's Grace?" Wolf repeated. Laurel joined him. "The old man is very upset with you," Butch said. "First you take his daughter and get her killed. Then you neglect to tell him that he has a granddaughter. I wouldn't want to be in your boots." "I mean it, Butch. I want her back. And if you so much as harm her," Butch interrupted. "Not likely, pal. You forget who I work for. Who you used to work for. You know, I can't get over how much she looks like Rose. Brings back memories." "Let me talk to her." Butch shook his head. "No way. You've had 12 years to talk to her. It's her grandfather's turn now, and he's a pretty smooth talker." Wolf stared at the screen, wishing he could jump through it and throttle him. "How's the stump?" Butch asked. "I imagine it's getting pretty sore. Doesn't seem to have slowed you down, though. And by the way, nice try on the tracking tags. Did you hang them in a tree? Did you think that would throw me off? You've always underestimated me. Serious mistake. The only reason your sweaty face is still talking is because Noah had some use for you. But not anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts your carcass in one of his dioramas." "At least let me see her," Wolf pleaded. "I want to make sure she's okay." Butch smiled. "No can do, pal. She's, indisposed at the moment. But I'll tell you what I'll do. We're out here looking for Makili Membe, and we're having a little problem finding it. I mean, you'd think a sauropod would stick out like a sore thumb. Anyway, the rumor is that you might know where we can find it." "In exchange?" Wolf said hopefully. "I wouldn't go that far. Blackwood has his heart set on showing Grace the wonders of the world. No, what I had in mind is letting you have a final conversation with her if you could just give me an idea of where I might find the beast." "You know, I'll find it anyway. I don't know where it is," Wolf said. "Too bad. But of course I don't believe you. It would be out of character for you to mount an expedition to the Congo for the fun of it. This isn't Disneyland. The only reason I came here was to find Mausolito before you did. You came here so he wouldn't tell us where to find Makili Membe? How much is Blackwood paying you?" "A lot more than you can afford," Butch answered. Look, I'd better get going. If you change your mind about the conversation with Grace, give me a call back. Because I'm a generous guy, I'll pass on some more information. It will save that stump of yours some wear and tear." Butch looked at his watch. "By the time you get here, we'll be long gone. I gotta go. Call me sometime." The screen went blank. Wolf stared at it for a long time before looking up at Laurel. "How long before we get there?" 3 or 4 hours, maybe a little longer." Wolf started walking, and oddly, the pain in his stump had gone away. Marty had overheard most of the conversation between Butch and Wolf. He was hiding behind a fallen tree not 20 feet from where Butch was now, massaging his bare feet. He knew he wasn't going to get another chance like this. He crept forward, carrying a large stick which snagged on a vine, alerting Butch, who reached for his shotgun a little too late. The blow to his bald head wasn't hard enough to knock Butch out, but it gave Marty enough time to scoop up one of his boots, the gizmo, and run. Butch yelled. There was a gunshot. Marty didn't look back. He ran for at least a mile, coming to a stop near a pond. He threw the boot in the water and watched the crocodiles fight over it. While he caught his breath and figured out what he was going to do next, will Butch continue after Grace? Marty asked himself. Try to catch me? Or will he head back to camp to get another pair of boots? providing he has spares, which I hope he doesn't. He listened for the sound of pursuit, but heard nothing. Satisfied that Butch had taken option number 3, he switched the gizmo on and called Wolf. Wolf's face appeared immediately, and the scowl on it changed to shock when he saw who it was. How did... he stuttered. I just talked to... I swiped it from him, Marty said, along with his right boot, or maybe it was his left. Butch is nobody to be fooling around. The picture and sound started to break up. What? The picture came back on. My battery's getting weak. I don't have any spares. We'll have to make this brief. Butch sent 2 guys to kill you in Laurel, Marty said. When did they leave Butch's camp? I don't know. Mausolito's on their trail. You mean he's not with you? Wolf raised his voice in alarm. Not anymore. And Grace? She got away from them sometime this morning. Butch was following her when I got his boot. Wolf sighed. You better start from the beginning. Marty quickly explained what had happened. When he finished, Wolf stared at the screen for a while before responding. I think I know where they're going to set up their ambush. Can you get around them? Wolf shook his head. It would take too much time. Don't worry about us. You need to find Grace. I'll find her, Marty said. Do you have that silent whistle? Marty took it out of his pocket and held it in front of the gizmo. Good. Call Vid into you. He's closer to you right now than he is to us. If he sees you, we'll know where you are. He also might spot Grace, and you can track to his signal. If he spots Butch, stay away from him. I will. When you find Grace, I want you to go directly to the Sky House. Okay. Marty was about to turn the gizmo off, but found himself hesitating. Are you Grace's father? I am, Wolf said. And Noah Blackwood? He's her grandfather. Marty nodded. Be careful.